The U.S. is withdrawing hundreds of troops from Syria. From the New York Times, the end of the Assad era has reduced some threats, but the Islamic State has shown renewed strength in the country. Well, that's because the Islamic State is now the people in charge.
Horrifying.
They won.
They're in charge. I think it's a good idea to get Americans out of harm's way over there.
Sure.
Yeah.
The United States has started drawing down hundreds of troops from northern Syria in a reflection of the shifting security environment in the country since the fall of President Bashar al-Assad in December, but also a move that carries risk. The military is shuttering 3 of its 8 small operating bases in the country's northeast, reducing troop levels to about 1,400 from 2,000, two senior U.S. officials said. The bases are Mission Support Site Green Village, MSS Euphrates, and a third much smaller facility. After 60 days, the officials said, American commanders will assess whether to make additional cuts. Commanders have recommended keeping at least 500 U.S. troops in Syria, one official has said. Now, these guys that are in Syria, first of all, right, this is a direct contradiction to what Kamala Harris said on the campaign trail, that there was no U.S. forces in other countries. She completely. Oh yeah. Not only did she say that,
okay, that's
but
like
there were
guys.
Yeah, I mean it was completely BS. But there were no U.S. forces in war zones. I think was the actual.
That was a funny video, and they're like, "Where are we right now?"
And there was a video made by some servicemen. They're just sitting there watching, and they're like, "Well, where the hell are we?" Because they were overseas. So, but anyways, this kind of pull out by the United States. These guys that are getting pulled out, like these were not, regular army. These guys were combat. They were combat guys. They were probably most likely Green Berets working with local forces, or maybe they were Delta guys doing direct action. And now that they're not, now that Assad's not in charge, I don't know what they would be doing, because the current government there is terrorists. They were formerly ISIS. These guys are as bad as they come. This is not an upgrade. Bashar al-Assad, I know there are people that say, oh, well, Bashar al-Assad, he was actually much, much better. He protected Christians and blah, blah, blah. And there is some truth to that, but he wasn't better because he was brutal and stuff. So it's just different, he at
least protected the Christians.
Yeah, but new boss, same as the old boss. Like this. So now they're going after Christians, but they were going after everybody before too. But it is good to see that the Trump administration still wants to do more to pull back the U.S. forces from war zones. What's this? President Trump, however, has expressed deep skepticism about keeping any U.S. troops in the country. At least for now, the reductions that started on Thursday are based on ground commanders' recommendations to close and consolidate bases, and were approved by the Pentagon and its Central Command. The official said, speaking on the condition of anonymity to discuss operational matters. So, again, it's a good thing that the U.S. is getting out of, war zones, but these, like the guys that are over there, they're not dudes that are there because they don't want to be, right? Again, when I say that they're Green Berets, they're the kind of like tier 1 kind of dudes. They're tier 1 guys and probably support. And like those guys are the kind of guys that are like, yo, put me in, coach. I joined the army because I want to fight bad guys. Point me at the bad guys.
Well, what are they doing there right now? Do we have any idea?
No, and I think that's part of their job.
Intelligence gathering going on and whatever, but
that's
bring them home.
We've had people in Syria for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so do you guys have a sense that it's a good thing or a bad thing? What's your opinion?
I mean, it really depends on what your perspective is, right? What's your worldview? So it's a good thing if you think that the United States should withdraw its tendrils from all over the world and come back home and bring our troops back home and be a little bit more America focused and a little more isolationist. And it's a bad thing if you are a globalist who really wants to have America's reach in every corner of the world.
Do you think that is the sense of a globalist, or do you think that that's the sense of someone that believes that the United States should have an expansive military footprint? Because I think that there is a difference between.
I think that the globalists and the warmongers have a lot of similarities. They want that reach. They want that. They want that. They want the hard power and they want the soft power to go along with it. So, like, if, for example, if you're going to do soft power operations in Syria or in the Middle East, you need a place to do them from, right? And you need to have a little hard power there to back it up. So I think those two things go hand in hand.
What do you think, Lisa?
I think if I say what I really think, that I'll get the show taken down. But I'm definitely not in favor of sending any money over there or putting troops on the ground in excess or anything like that. I wouldn't spend a single dime over there anymore. However,
I can't say stuff like that. The chat goes wild.
However, I think, well, I really don't want any money over there at all. Like, and I don't care where, and even Israel, I don't want to give my money over there either. But I really think people wildly underestimate the threat of Islam, and they do it because of whatever reason that they wildly underestimate it. They definitely, I've been doing that kind of stuff in England and in Brussels and all over the place, wildly underestimate how that can totally ruin your entire country. If I want them all over there, let them all fight each other. Let them all kill each other. I don't care, right? But I definitely think we should at least have some ears on the ground so that if they're coming over here or they're planning an attack, that we can, what I would do is just like, boop, on the whole region. But that's me.
So what do you
What is
On the whole region.
I think we can take from context what
Okay,
boop means.
Boop. God,
Whole
what do you?
region.
What do you?
Would you support giving asylum to Christians?
Yeah. Nah, no, I probably wouldn't. No, actually, no.
So it seems
They
to be
could
the
go to-
only reason why we
They
would
could
be
go.
there. Is
They
to
can go to
protect
Christian.
them.
They can go to
Now they have no
neighboring
protection.
Christian countries near them. I don't want anybody else in here.
Yeah.
I want no one else in here. I think that we should stop immigration for the next 10 years. No more people in here. We're done. We're full. We're full.
I actually.
There's no room at the inn.
We're done.
I just think there are no neighboring Christian countries, and that's the problem. There's not really any neighboring
Well,
Christian
okay, so-
countries that are.
I mean,
Israel would
literally
really
the
be the
only
best
friendly
Okay,
Yeah.
keep
place,
going though.
you
Keep
know?
going. Is there anywhere closer than us? Yes.
Yeah.
Well, there's
But
Europe.
they also
Europe's not
don't
Christian
accept
countries
anyone
anymore.
else.
Yeah, true.
It used to
They're
be.
Poland. The only place they can go is
Hungary.
Poland.
Also
And good for
Hungary.
Poland. Poland has the
Hungary.
right idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, they can go somewhere else. Don't come here.
So okay, so you made a remark about about intel, right? A lot of times, it's my understanding that if you don't have people, human intelligence, then you really don't have much. Now
Correct.
you can do if I understand correctly, you can do a lot with signal intelligence. That's monitoring phone calls, monitoring the internet, but the real payoff comes from human intelligence. That's people that know people on the ground. If you don't have people on the ground, and this was what we ran into after 9/11, we didn't have intelligence in Afghanistan. We didn't have a lot of intelligent
Lost
assets.
a lot of that, yeah.
All in all kinds of places. Do you and because you specifically mentioned the threat of Islam, do you think, or like global jihad kind of Islam,
It's coming.
do you think that the U.S. is better served by having those kind of assets, or do you think that it should be a full pullback? And I think that I want to go to everybody with that.
I definitely don't. I don't necessarily think boots on the ground, but I definitely think you should have people there.
well, there are going to be sandals on the ground.
Yeah, I think that there should be sandals on the ground. Some sandals on the
Well, the
ground.
point that I'm making
just
is it's going to be.
to prevent threats
Some
that would be on the
Birkenstocks.
homeland. Like we don't need
Yeah.
to manipulate their governments or deal with that. If they want to, hurt each other, fine, right? Like, go ahead, you go do your thing, fight each other. Who cares? But the minute that it comes here,
Yeah.
then that's where I have an issue. And so we should have some intelligence on the ground to get some intel for that.
Libby, what do you think?
I'm not sure. I think it makes sense to have intelligence operations, but I really don't know what that looks like.
Well, because as soon as
And we were operating at a base in Syria
Yeah.
that was controlled by, I think, the Assad regime previously. So once Assad fell, we no longer have any protection in that area, and we certainly don't have
we
any.
did. We have an aircraft carrier in
Sure,
the
I mean, we have that,
Mediterranean.
but we don't have. We are certainly not in the good graces of the government there.
No,
Right.
but they don't have an air force, and
Right.
again,
Sure, but now you're talking about escalation.
no, well, only if they decide they're going to attack the
Right.
Americans.
So
But-
then what? I mean, we lost people in Jordan last year. at a base there, and that was a pretty weird operation where we had put out drones, and when we brought the drones back,
They followed the drones.
they followed the drones back so that our guys couldn't detect them, and then they killed some people. Like I think it was 3 engineers from Georgia
Yep.
who got killed in that attack. But foreign policy is definitely not my strong suit.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Same here.
Yeah.
That foreign policy is not really my thing. I like to say that my brain just kind of when we're talking about geopolitics. But I will say, I think it's fair that we should have intelligence operations over there. It's just
So that
let's pull our troops out of the region, but you know,
that impulse or that idea actually flies in the face of what most libertarians think, because everyone when it's one thing to say intelligence, right? But then once you say the CIA, then libertarians are like, whoa, that's what intelligence is. It is CIA. It is.
well, I don't want to be over there doing regime change and using USAID.
Have you
Brain
heard?
experiments.
You've heard Mike Ben's talk, right?
Yes.
Okay, the way
Ben's
that
is
he
great.
describes it, I think, is extremely useful. Regime change happens by the military. CIA doesn't do regime change. As much as people want to think they do, they'll do influence operations. They will do things like trying to help, help people that are friendly to the United States gain influence and stuff. But if they want to do regime change, it takes the U.S. military, because the U.S. military has to actually usually destroy the military of the existing, or unless you can get,
Pretty sure CIA has some operations that
so
are.
you're just talking about CIA ground branch, but they work in conjunction with Green Berets, and they would work in conjunction with possibly with Delta, but definitely with Green Berets. Green Berets go in and they teach local assets how to fight. CIA ground branch would be the guys that are working.
They've definitely had like secret operations in the CIA where they were like physically harming people.
So but that's not large scale kind of stuff. Like when you
Well, if you
talk
just
about Maxog
assassinate
V,
somebody.
but if you're talking about like Maxog V, right? The guys that were in Cambodia,
Right.
in Vietnam, they were in the army. They weren't CIA guys. They were working in conjunction with CIA, but they were the army. They had some, like CIA did like the plane flights and stuff, but they were military trained and stuff like that. But that's the thing. You run into, whether it be just human intelligence and stuff like that, but you run into the people that are like, whoa, CIA shouldn't be in there. Well, that's what CIA does.
Yeah.
Intelligence, So
I don't think we should be, trying to whip up support for or against certain people in power over there. I just think we should monitor for threats against the United States. I think
Just
that's
kinda bug
fairly consistent. We should defend ourselves.
I have nothing else to say. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I said a lot.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.